Hi students! I am teacher Crisel from Malino National High School. Are you ready for another video that full of learnings? Video that will make you think and learn significant things. Before we start for another interactive discussion, I just want to remind you about the 3 important things. First, ready your materials, such as your pen and paper, for you to take note the important details about our topic for today. Second, always listen and understand the key concepts that will be discussed on this video lesson. And of course, the third one, do not forget to enjoy and relax while you are learning. Are you all ready for our today's lesson? Great! Let us start by imagining this scenario. Pretend that you were cooking a meal for your family. You are preparing your special dish, which is pork adobo. You are almost finished, but you want to check if everything tastes good. What will you do? Precisely, you will get only a portion from the dish you cook to know how it tastes. What do you think is the relevancy of this scenario in our today's topic? Good job! Just like in research, we have this sampling design. Sampling is the process through which a researcher selects a portion or segment from the population. This means that in order for the researcher to have more reliable and valid results, he or she must ensure that the sample size is true enough to represent the population. Just like the scenario a while ago, the whole dish is the entire population, while the portion we taste is only the sample size from the entire population. Do you get it? Good job! For this time, let us dig deeper the topic by knowing first the end in mind. Here are the 3 specific goals that we have to attain at the end of the lesson. And these are what, why, and how. At the end of the lesson, you are expected to identify what are the various sampling techniques, understand why do we need to know them, and specify how these various techniques work in research. If you do not have any question in mind, let us talk about the 2 types of sampling method. We have 2 different sampling methods, and these are probability and non-probability. Let us talk about first the first type of sampling method, which is probability. When we say probability, it is a sampling method where all members of the population are given equal chances to be included in the sample. And under this probability sampling, we have 4 types, and these are simple random sampling, stratified random sampling, cluster sampling, and the 4th one is the systematic sampling. Let's have first the simple random sampling. A simple random sampling is a sample where every member of the population has equal chance of being selected. There are different ways to do this. The researcher could then place all the names in a bowl or mixer and pick as many papers as needed to complete the sample, or they could use a calculator or computer to generate random numbers.
That means the researcher can use the sampling design if he or she does not consider any parameter of inclusion. While the second type of sampling design under probability is the stratified sampling. A stratified sampling is where a researcher will divide the population into subgroups or strata. Then the researcher will randomly select from each stratum to have his or her participants.
For example, let's say you wanted to know them into different strata that are homogeneous in nature. When we say homogeneous, the members from each stratum have the same characteristics. After doing that, you would then take a random sample from each of these strata, and this will be your participants. And for the third one, we have the cluster sampling. When we say cluster sampling, the sample is obtained by dividing the population into sections or clusters, then randomly select one or more of the clusters, and using of all its members as the participants of the sample. This is often used when the population has a large geographic area. But take note, in cluster sampling, members from each cluster are heterogeneous because most of the time they came from a bigger geographic area. Unlike in stratified sampling, for each stratum, all members are mostly homogeneous. And for the fourth one, we have the systematic sampling. This is a method of selecting every end of a population. To get this, you have to divide the population size by the desired sample size. Let's say 1,000 is the entire population, and the desired sample size of the population is 200. That would be 5. This means that every fifth member of the population will be the participants in the study. And that's all about probability sampling and its type of sampling techniques. At this juncture, let us move on to the non-probability sampling. This one is a sampling method in which not all members of the population have an equal chance of participating in the study. Unlike in probability sampling, each member of the population has a known chance of being selected. Some examples of sampling techniques under non-probability are purposive, convenience, snowball, and the volunteer. Let's have first the purposive sampling. This type of sampling, also known as judgment sampling, involves the researcher using their expertise to select sample that is most useful for the purposes of the research. But do not forget, an effective purposive sample must have clear criteria and parameters for inclusion. Therefore, the participants in this sampling technique are selected using the given parameters. And for the second one, we have the convenience sampling. This one simply includes the individuals who happen to be the most accessible to the researcher. The technique is useful where target population is defined in terms of very broad category. For instance, the target population may be girls and boys, men and women, rich and poor. And for the third type of non-probability sampling, we have the snowball. This one happens if the population is hard to access. Snowball sampling can be used to recruit participants via other participants. For example, you are researching experiences of homelessness in your city. Since there is no list of all homeless people in the city, probability sampling is not possible. You meet one person who agrees to participate in the research, and she puts you into contact with other homeless people that she knows in the area. And that is a snowball sampling. It works by referrals. And for the fourth one, under non-probability sampling, we have the volunteer. In this sampling technique, the members of the sample self-select themselves for being part of the study. In other words, it is not the researcher who approaches the participants. Rather, participants themselves reach the researcher. Perhaps participants are told about the investigation or the research through advertisements or announcements. that is all for today, students. I hope you enjoy our lesson. It is time for wrapping up. Again, we have two sampling methods, which are probability and non-probability. Under probability, we have simple random, stratified, cluster, and systematic. While under non-probability, we have the purposive, convenience, snowball, and volunteer. As researchers, we have to know and understand each of these sampling techniques. Just do not forget the nature of each sampling before you will decide to use it as your sampling technique in choosing your participants. And this portion, we will recall the things that you have learned from the discussion. If you're all ready, let's start. Question number 1 for 2 points. It is a sampling method where all members of the population are given equal chances to be included in the sample. A. Non-probability. B. Probability. C. Parameters. Or D. Statistic. Correct, it's probability. For our question number 2 for 2 points. It is a sampling technique which uses nth element of the population. A. Convenience. B. Simple random. C. Systematic. D. Respondents. Correct, it's systematic. For item number 3 for 2 points, it is a type of sampling technique where every person who enters the gate is included in the sample. A. Convenience. B. Cluster. C. Simple random. D. Volunteer. Good job! The correct answer is A. Convenience. And for our item number 4, in this type of sampling technique, the researchers made sure to include 15 honor students in his sample of 100 students. A. Cluster sampling. B. Accidental sampling. C. Chain sampling. Or D. Purposive sampling. Correct. The answer is letter D, purposive sampling. And for our item number 5 for 2 points, names are put into a bowl and the researchers draws them at random to generate a sample. A. Chain. B. Cluster. C. Simple random. Or D. Volunteer. Good job, students! The correct answer is simple